The other day I was listening to a podcast that somebody I knew for the last 30 years gave. And in this podcast he opened up about his own sufferings, depressions, failings. I think it was very, very raw video that this man gave. And all the time I was listening to this and I was thinking, God, all that suffering and nobody knew about it. But at the end of the day, it's good that he's able to talk about these things. He's able to, find resolutions to these problems, that he's not letting, threading wheels in his mind, letting these problems become greater than they are. And as I was listening to this podcast, it was like this image of Christ revealed himself to me. And, all I could see was his bloodied hands, like really bloodied hands, like dirty, filthy, bloodied hands, suffering Christ, this Christ that had fallen, this Christ that was sweating, this Christ that understood our humanity so well. And it was like this image of Matthew 11:28 came to mind, and it was this, come to me all you who are labor and I will give you rest. It was like this, come to me, I know what it is like to suffer. This Christ, he is this person, this God, this amazing brother of ours who took on all this suffering on us and knows what it is like to suffer, knows what our suffering is like. He identifies with our suffering and he wants you to say, well, look, come to me. Enter into my mystery, into my grace, into my presence, and let there be a dialogue between the two of us. Because sometimes we're our own worst enemies, and the devil doesn't want us, Satan, the accuser, doesn't want us free in the light. He wants us in our mind, destroying ourselves. I was leaving work today, and somebody asked me, what are you doing this evening, Robert? I said, well, I'm going with my wife to a wake that a friend of our friends, he had hung himself. And she was saying, gosh, Robert, there's an awful lot of suicide around here, men taking their lives. And I said, yes, I know. It's a very, very sad time in our Irish society, in this opulent, we've never had so much wealth. We've never had so much social protection. We've never had so much, but at the end of the day, there are so many men that don't find fulfillment, reason to live. It's sad in a way, and I'd often love to take them aside and have a conversation about them. What is going on in your life that you don't see any reason to live, and that you will pass your pain? Because a lot of the time when people take their lives, they multiply their pain. They radiate that pain out to their wives, to their partners, to their children, to their loved ones. Sometimes there's no closure. It's like that pain cries. And Christ is really the opposite to that. He takes that pain on himself. He draws it in. I mean, this is something that is really profound in prayer over the last number of years. I remember one time at Mass, and the Mass is about to start, and Christ, he walks in front of me as if he's going to his passion, and he looks at me. There was no word, he didn't say anything to me, but I could, you're looking into this suffering Christ. The Mass is this entry into Calvary, this procession of Christ towards his sacrifice. The Mass is the re-representation of his crucifixion. But he did this to free us. He did this so that we may know him, be his disciples, and be the light in the world. There's so much discussion. I was just looking at the videos that I do. There is a lot of confusion in the church. But it's sad that so many Catholics don't understand what the faith is. What is our call to action as Catholics in this moment in time in the church? So many people are stuck in the past or stuck in the future. They're stuck in the past and say, well, everything was growing exponentially up until Vatican II. And I don't want to go into Vatican II again, but everything, if you look at all the graphs, they were going up and up and up after Vatican II. And after Vatican II, everything went down. And people forget they went through the two horrific wars that humanity ever faced. Did that not impact in people's psyche and their mind after the 1940s and 50s, as men came back from these wars and were looking for some normality in their lives after seeing so much death, and they filled monasteries and seminaries in the 40s, 50s, and early 60s. Did that not impact on humanity? And then we have a whole sexual revolution in the 60s, and today it's, we see in this world in the Western world, at least in Ireland, where we have so many social programs, so many helps and so many things, and yet hundreds of men take their lives every year. Hundreds. We look at the Northern Ireland, twice as many people have taken their lives since the Good Friday Agreement than all during the Troubles. All those victims of the Troubles. We focus on the victims of the Troubles and trying to get peace and resolution for them, and we forget the double crisis. What is the enemy in the church? What is the enemy in our Irish society? If we think about it, for every one man that gets ordained to the priesthood, there are 100 other men who take their life in Ireland, and most of them are probably baptised Catholics. That is the stark reality of what we face in our Irish society. That's the stark reality that we face in many Western countries, that so many people don't see the hope that Christ offers us, because he expands out our vision of reality. He expands out our vision of who we are as men and as women. He completely embodies this amazing message of hope. He really does, especially when you encounter him, when you allow yourself to encounter him, when you don't be putting up barriers to encounter him. Adoration, encounter with Christ in the Eucharist, is the most amazing reality that you could have. And it's sad in a way, in Ireland at least, how we have destroyed that encounter with Christ in the Eucharist, that amazing encounter with Christ, because people do not know him. We do not preach and teach about him. We have an infantilized view of Jesus Christ that finishes at age 12. And then we're wondering why, there's so many mental health, there's so many problems, there's so many issues. We don't have a liturgy that engages Irish population under 40. We simply don't. It's comical in many ways. And, I suppose I want to drive this question. And it's not about dividing the church, it's about questioning what is going on. What is going on? And on one side we have this amazing encounter with Christ, who completely transforms your interior. Once you encounter him, the same Christ that walked this earth 2,000 years exists, is present in the church today. And he wants to transform lives today so that we can know him, know the way, the truth, and the life. Know the light of the world. This what he has to offer, if you just imagine and think about it. And we can go on to lots of debates about leadership in the church, what is happening in Rome, different bishops, different crises and so forth. We can blame that, but at the end of the day, we have to have an examination of conscience ourselves. What are we doing? How much light are we shining in this world? How much are we digesting Christ's message in the gospel into our lives? And how much are we digesting his presence and showing others that, look, there is somebody who will completely change your life. Christ is real. He is the Son of God, and he makes us children of God. He brings us into the presence of the Father, and he makes us the Father's children, and he renews souls, renews lives, and renews mind. And I would just ask, in all of this debate going on in the Catholic Church, especially those of you who love the faith, don't lose sight of what needs to be done today. And you don't need a pope or a bishop for you to know Christ today. When all this confusion upstairs, when you appear before our Lord is not going to say, well, how much more confusion did you cause in our church? Because we can't solve what's going on upstairs. We can't. But we can solve what's going on around here. And we can open people's lives to the transcendent, to that encounter with Christ, to know that you are children of God. to know that God is real, He exists. There is more to your life than what is happening in this moment in time in your life. To give hope, to give balance, to give reason, to give clarity to so many people that are in darkness. If you think about it, so many people live in darkness at this moment in time, especially in Ireland. So many people. Very, very, very sad to think about it. So many people live in darkness. And if you are living in the light, bring that light into their lives. Lead them to Christ, who is the light of this world. You know, I wouldn't talk with so much passion if I didn't know that this Christ, who has revealed himself to me, is actually real. He is there. You know, when I hear the pain of other people, you know, and you see Christ's pain as well, because Christ suffers because of our suffering. He suffers to see us so distant from his Father. He suffers. And he suffers that those who could do more don't do more. And I would just ask people, ask Catholics now, to know who is the real enemy at this moment in time in the church. Who is destroying the light of Christ in this world? Who is doing that? And cannot we be that light for more souls? Can't we bring more souls to encounter our Lord Jesus Christ in the Eucharist, but present body, blood, soul and divinity, his beating sacred heart in the Eucharist? Because once souls encounter his sacred heart, they're never the same again. Christ sometimes gives us great crosses so that we can walk with him and know him, but he always allows these sufferings to be carried with peace and joy. But we need to be there now so that people understand there is a meaning to everything that's happening in your lives, and you can come out of this darkness in your life and find closure and find joy and find peace. It's really important. Anyway, God bless you. Take care. Bye bye.